Oh, excuse me. Okay, welcome, welcome to H Squared, what used to be called Hopeifiers. I am the acapella style and freestyle. With me is brother Scott Sweetman. I was a little distracted there, but I'm with you now. So, Scott, how you doing tonight?
We're having an identity crisis. We're actually not HQ'd, which would be H to the fourth, unless we want to add in heaven or another H. We're HQ'd, H to the power of 3. That's us.
H3. Okay, got it.
HQ'd. Yeah. So what we could be, there's lots of H words that you and I are, positive about, right? So
Yes,
helpfulness. We could have a whole show on H words that are positive to think about.
we could. It could be H to infinity. We could just like.
I wonder if we could brand that. That'd be a great brand. H to infinity. Well, welcome everyone. Al and I are in jocular moods this evening. Not sure why. Maybe it's something in the air, or maybe it's just one of those things from being a hopeful human being. Al looks good tonight. I'm having trouble seeing, so if you see me looking like an owl and doing this a lot, I think I've reached that milestone again where it's time to go in and see the optometrist. Yeah.
Time to get them peepers dialed in again, eh?
How long have you been wearing glasses, Al?
Well, these are actually just reading glasses. They're just +1 reading glasses. I don't know why. I use them all the time. Even when I'm driving, I'm using my reading glasses. So it seems to work for me. It's a little weird, I realize, but anyways, it's working for me.
Nice. I've had glasses since I was 13, so like forever. Yeah. I had to wear contacts when I was young and played football because I got in a fight after a football match and a guy smashed me. I'd had my helmet off and he was holding the nose guard of his helmet and he smashed me in the face with it and it drove my glasses into my face here and this part of my face just went boop.
Wow.
Yeah, I just cut it. The glass just cut it. I don't think they were made the same way they're made now because I think they're all plastic now, but that was back in the day of real glass. So
yeah. Your frames are made of cast iron or something. Is that what they were? Or?
Probably, yeah. When I was in there getting my eyeballs stitched back up, my mom's like, yeah, no, we're going to see the doctor tomorrow to get contacts. So yeah, it was not so fun. But yeah, age is one of those things, right? We have to deal with those things and have fun. I alternate between enjoying it and then on the other hand thinking, what sick SOB in the universe decided that this is how we were gonna glide out the last days of our existence in this life, but falling apart as we go. It's better than, I guess, alternatives. So tonight we're going to talk. Sorry. Oh, go ahead.
Very true. I said, Scott. Yes.
If anyone's wondering about my backdrop, that's actually, I don't know, 34th floor or something of the NHK building in Nagoya, Japan. There's a garden up there. And on my right over here, that's Sabrina, one of my twins, in her school uniform of one of the schools we ran in Japan. And this is a statue, and she's in art class, and she's drawing that statue. There's a grasshopper behind my back you can't see. But that's right up on top of the building.
So it's on the 34th floor of a building.
Yep.
That you said?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I tried to look up how many, because my memory is not that great. And I tried to look up how many floors it was, and I couldn't get a straight answer because there's a helicopter pad that's a little bit higher than this. This is actually the TV station in Nagoya. And there's a museum in there, all kinds of things. But it's open to the public. So what I really enjoyed about places like this is there wasn't, you didn't have to pay to get in. There was no restriction. People that were living on the streets could go enjoy art and gardens and things as much as anyone else. And we took the kids to a lot of these places to study and do, outside lessons and things. Quite good for mental health, which brings us to our topic tonight. And I'm going to explain why I use this picture at the end of tonight's show. So don't turn away, folks. Stay with us.
All right. And what a smooth transition, I might say as well, Brother Scott. And very nicely done.
I worked on that, eh?
All right. Good job.
Okay, so last week, we thought we were going to cruise through 6 key mental health trends for 2023. And in typical H cubed Hopeifiers fashion, we made it through 3, I think, maybe halfway through 4, and decided that we were going to have part 2 tonight because they were just so amazing. Those of you that didn't tune in missed some really interesting things. You can watch it on our YouTube channel. Give the Acapellist a search or visit his website, and we're there. So you can watch it. I'll fill you in a little bit. After COVID, the world has changed a lot for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at some statistics, and just to give you some idea, 31.6% of adults feel more anxiety. The workplace, a lot of workplace tension. We talked about how home is work and work is home now, that the boundaries dividing those have disappeared and really changed. And do you remember some of the positive things we talked about? One of the ones that I was really jacked about was the family, right? The family out of the shadows. That was a big one, right?
Just refresh my memory, Scott. Family out of the shadows.
Throw them out to you. You're supposed to hit them out of. How mental health is something that people are talking about now. That
yes, out of the shadows in the family, that they're discussing mental health issues and challenges. I remember it well. Yes, and that's great. The all of the stigma around mental health, that should be like evaporated, gone. It doesn't exist. You got mental health challenges, you got anxiety, you got concerns, like seek help. Call somebody, call a friend, use the services that you have available to address it. Everybody's feeling anxious about life, and it's a weird thing we got happening here, right? That's the reality of it. So
yeah. It's the statistics. I can't speak. The statistics are really supportive of how mental health has become a much more open topic, and it's now part of workplace conversation. Companies are investing a lot more in mental health for employee, not just health benefits, but also mental health benefits. They used to be sort of a dirty little secret no one talked about, right? And now companies are investing and promoting things like affinity groups, and we talked about some of those things. So well worth a watch. Tonight, we're going to talk about the last things on our list, and then I have a couple of surprises for you, Al, and our viewers. And that's going to be some well-being trends for 2023. 2 of them blew me away, and I thought, I got to share those.
Nice.
And the very last will tie in this picture behind me. So
okay, sounds good.
Organized tonight, yeah.
You're doing a great job, Scott, keeping us on track. Thank you, brother. Yeah. Good job.
We're in trouble when it's up to me to keep things going in one direction here. Al and I are great cat herders, man. We just go out there and chase them around, have some fun. So I was thinking about it. Katrina's studying for education. She wants to be in education. You've been an instructor for years in firearms and other things, and I have. And my grandmother was a teacher. My aunt was a teacher. Fleur's a teacher. Michelle's a teacher. Everywhere I go, there's teachers. And during COVID, there was a lot of stress on families, but there was also a lot of stress on educators. A lot of the things I were reading was talking about first responders. And in that, they were including teachers and people that were really on the front lines of dealing with the pressure of COVID restrictions. And because as a family, it's extremely difficult. But if you're a teacher with 30 kids, like so many or more in Canada in your classrooms, each one of those kids and their families represents a stress point that you have to take care of and concern yourself about and provide education in some form too, whether you're allowed to get together. And as you know, the first year or so, and then the second year, they were in the classroom, out of the classroom, back in the classroom, at home, online. And educators had to try and adjust to this. And of course, students did too.
Yeah.
But what we're going to see in 2023 is an increased prioritization of educator mental health and student mental health. It's gonna ratchet up partly in response to that pressure that was put on there. Here in Lethbridge, we had a strike go on at the university in the middle of that, which just added a whole bunch more.
Yeah.
And foreign students, which are an important source of income for higher education, they pay a lot more in tuition than domestic students do. They were left with nowhere to go. They couldn't leave. They couldn't stay. I know that there were some that were in lockdown in the dormitories for months. They couldn't go. They were just basically stuck there.
Wow.
And professors and friends and things were shuttling them in food and necessities. So it was quite grim for people. And if you don't have children in education, you may not have realized the pressure,
Sure.
Caitlin finished her education. She got her PhD, right? She's done.
Yes, she's doing postdoc work at Georgia State University in Atlanta.
Oh, Georgia. I loved Atlanta. I lived in Macon, Georgia for a while.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, pecan pie, beautiful place. Yeah. Anyway, so back on track. So we're going to see in 2023, there's a lot of indicators that both educators across the board, and that's both in, preschool, kindergarten, high school, junior high school, secondary education, coaches, all of those things. We saw a lot of burnout happening. We saw a lot of teachers going on stress leave. I know that here in Alberta, we're having trouble getting teachers. I've talked to people in the Calgary division, Fleurs and Horizon, and talked to teachers in Lethbridge School Division, and finding teachers to actually teach in the classroom and subs to fill in for the ones that are, on leave or sick has become a real problem. So, and then of course the students have to deal with all these changes, right?
You bet. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, some students really got, if your graduation was during that period of time, that really sucked, right? So So, yes, carry on. Yes, I agree.
No, and I think that's important to recognize is that a lot of those important ceremonies and traditions were disrupted by everything that's gone on in the last couple of years. And for a lot of people, there's a lot of memories that are attached to that and a lot of things that, class rings and a lot of cultures attached to graduations and transitions. High school's a transition from basically childhood to adulthood, university or college or trades is a transition into the working community, etc. So we've had to deal with this. And the good news is that both the private sector and governments have recognized this and are going to put a lot more money into mental health for both students and educators. And that's going to take a lot of different forms. What we're going to see happen is that, like with the families, it's going to become more open. A recent survey said that 38.6% of all students, there was 110,000 students surveyed in North America, 38% said that they were very concerned about their mental health and well-being. Mm-hmm. And that's, they admit it, if they're open about it, and that's a huge percentage.
Definitely.
And this is when youth are supposed to be out there enjoying themselves in the golden time of their youth. 47% were concerned about their use of technology and academic preparedness. And that came a lot from, at-home lessons and non-traditional forms of education. When you or I were in school, did you take any courses by distance or anything that was done remotely? Everything was...
I took the easiest path to get through school. I took shop and I took the basic math and I took the easiest things to get through high school. I thought I was going to be a mechanic and a race car driver. That was going to be my vocation. So I'm not a race car. Well, I am a race car driver, but not legally.
I was going to give you the race car driver. Ever since the truck fire, I'm not so sure about the mechanic part.
Fair enough. I could understand your concern. Yes,
but I've driven with you, so the race car driver I think has been realized, whether officially or unofficially. But very different. So a lot of students right now are concerned about are they prepared for the technology to get the courses and education they need for the career path they've chosen. That's incredible when we think about this generation as being the technology generation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're lacking the confidence that they don't think that they can pull it off. Yeah, that's very
47% of them.
That's huge.
That's scary, right?
Yes.
Sorry,
just coughed. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, 33% of them are concerned with connections to their peers, And by that, they're talking about, with distance or online delivery or non-traditional classrooms. And I think, I know that you take a lot of courses still. Connecting with your fellow students is a really important part of the process. And, there's a lot of concern out there about that.
Yeah, how
So,
much more does it enhance the learning experience when you can connect with your other fellow students and exchange and bounce the ideas off and kind of refine your thought process, kind of a thing, right? It's a real important process, right?
so one of the trends that we're going to see is we're going to see more blended or mixed education processes where students have a duality of both having the option of, and I learned a new vocabulary when during the pandemic, synchronous and asynchronous delivery of education programs,
Okay.
where either it was delivered live or it was recorded, and whether they could view it at different times. And there was a lot of disagreement about the flexibility and what was appropriate and what was the best way for students to learn. And I think what's come out of that, at least according to the research that I was able to find, is that people are looking for a really flexible system that includes elements of a traditional education, but also has elements that were experienced during the whole COVID, like distance delivery, like asynchronous delivery, where people can go in and watch the lectures on their own time, those things. And so those are all really positive things. But like we saw in the family, there's much more openness. There's going to be increased funding for mental wellness programs in at all levels: junior high school, college, university, both for students and teachers. When you were in school at sort of any stage, was it ever discussed with you or brought up that whether you had any stress or mental health issues or?
No, 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 that wasn't a thing, right?
Yeah.
And you would never tell your buddy that. I mean, you might say, "Let's go drink," but you wouldn't say, "I feel bad. I feel scared. you would never say stuff like that. I wouldn't when I was a young person, right? So, which is not ideal like that, where people today, younger people, like as when I was like 16 or 17 or 18, that are expressing that are going to get help, and the people that didn't express it are like they're just suffering with that, right? So yeah.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is a move to peer initiated sharing or wellness activities, and that's where, rather than sort of from the top down, where the organization or a mentor or an educator says, we're all going to sit around and talk about our feelings, is that for 2023 and moving forward, young people feel more empowered to say to their friends, hey, we're feeling a lot of stress here. We're under a lot of stress. Like you said last show, in our day, that meant it was time for a beer or, get into trouble of some kind as a stress relief. But fortunately, the youth of today have matured past that point, maybe in a lot of ways, and are starting to talk about it in peer groups and starting to initiate that search for health and wellness from their own perspective, rather than waiting for it to be given to them
Yeah.
or pushed upon them. Have you witnessed any of that? You deal a lot with youth. Have you seen that?
I'm not really so sure if I have, like, yeah, no, let's say I haven't had those conversations with the youth that I'm involved in. Let's put it that way. So, yeah.
But when talking to you about your Hockey for Hope or Hope Hockey, that's an opportunity for young people to come together and not only be in a safe space with an adult, but also be in a safe space with children that they may not associate, peers. I shouldn't say children. I use the word children too loosely. I talk about my children, they're adults. They're going to be 22 this year. Do you ever talk about Caitlin as your child or children?
She's always my baby. She's my baby.
Yeah. We're allowed, right, as
Yeah.
parents to do that.
Yeah.
But it brings together non-established peers, right? And age differentials. You were telling me stories about how, there's sometimes younger and older kids that wouldn't normally hang out together, but end up playing
Yeah.
hockey.
Yeah, because it's just like fun, right? There's no competitive part to it. It's just fun, and it's just about hanging out and just shooting the ball around and chatting and laughing and that kind of thing. It's it's very an enjoyable experience, but it's also an opportunity where kids can express things, kids can, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's we missed last week because now on this coming Sundays at 2:00 for now until I die, I plan on doing that every Sunday. So I'm looking forward
Excellent.
to it. Yeah,
So for another 80 or 90 years.
probably.
Well, you've been sort of going backwards in the aging process, which we're going to talk about at another show. But yeah, I can see you going the long run there. So in 2023, look for opportunities in your education, whatever stage of education you're at. Look for opportunities to get involved in mental health initiatives for your own benefit or to benefit other people. Often people just need to, hang out in a room full of people. And, educational facilities are getting more aware that just being close to each other and, doing your own thing is mentally helpful and healthy. We're social animals. Of course, we like time alone, but we also, in times of stress, like to be around other people that are studying and, eating snacks and do whatever they do. So
I
look
was
for
in
those
a, I was in, oh, sorry, just going to add in that I've started a series with the provincial government. Today was the first day of it. And it's basically what's it called again? Yeah. Simple connections, stronger neighborhoods. So it's
Oh,
about connection again and about trying to address the disconnection that people have, the isolation, the loneliness they have. One of the stats they said today that like being disconnected from other people is very similar to smoking 15 cigarettes a day in terms of the impact on your health, right? It's very, very damaging for you, right? So how do we get more connection, right? Like, how does that happen? And so, anyways, I'm excited about that because this is a provincial initiative where they're looking at how do we, in our communities, engage more people, draw them in, just kind of have that network that we're all in this together and your health is important as my health. And like, I want to look after you and you look after me kind of thing. And so I'm excited. I think this is a great initiative. It's kind of trying to take what happens in a smaller community often and the network and the connectivity and try and make it on a bigger scale. Right. So, yeah.
I know that it's a really interesting talk about that because there's a tradition in Japan and other countries as well, but I experienced this one, so I'll share it. Is that when you move into an apartment or big apartment buildings, obviously, Tokyo,
Sure.
Nagoya, Osaka, New York, London, it's very hard to get to know your neighbors.
Sure.
You live in a box, you go off to work, you only come home to basically eat and sleep, watch a little TV, maybe talk to your family for a few minutes. They have a tradition there where they go to their neighbors above, below, and either side at the very least, and they give them a gift. And usually it's some sort of confection or something small just to
Yeah.
say, and to, say, I'm sorry, I'm moving in. It's going to be noisy. I'm sorry if the moving company gets in your way. It starts with an apology,
Right.
but that opens the door to them introducing each other and getting to know each other's names. And even though it's a ceremony in a way, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's spontaneous. For us, it was our neighbors did it in reverse because we didn't know the tradition. So they came to us, our Japanese neighbors came to us and said, oh, welcome to, beside us or above us or below us. And we felt really connected in so much that at least we had, recognized each other and could wave in the elevator or nod as we were getting our cars up from the underground parking or whatever the case was. And like you say, it just takes a little bit of effort, right? To get that started and that connection can start to occur.
And the thing I was watching today, Scott, this woman goes into her apartment building and she wants to talk to the guy at the front desk and he's got his headphones on and looking at his phone, like completely ignores her. Right. And then she's looking around and everybody walks by her looking on their phones with their headphones on. So they all stuff into the elevator and she goes up to her apartment and she walks into her apartment and her roommate, headphones on, not paying any attention to her. So then she loses it. She starts taking stuff out in the hallway, and she basically sets up the table, makes a meal out in the hallway. And then when people come off the elevator, it's, come on over. And so the end of this is this huge, everybody on the floor basically got out there, right? And the sweetest part, the little girl, this little girl who's part of this thing, goes to the end of the hallway where the old cranky asshole lives and knocks on the door and invites him in. And he comes, right? And so this, it's just made you cry. It was beautiful.
Yeah, wonderful. And as corny as that may sound, I think a lot of the initiatives that we have talked about and researched and reviewed and involved in really just come down to trying, right? Holding your hand out, being a little bit vulnerable for a couple of minutes. Our truck broke down 23rd of December, and two neighbors, one we knew and one we didn't know, are both mechanics, or one's a car fixer for fun and recreation, kind of like you, and the other one's a heavy duty mechanic for his day job.
Right.
And they came over and, got our truck as fixed up as they could. It ended up having to go in the shop anyway, but it was a really nice opportunity, and they just took that. And when they came over, there was a little bit of that trepidation, like, are they going to tell me to buzz off, or what's going to happen here? And, I think Michelle was outside, or Fleur was outside with them. And of course they are feeling like, this big guy's coming over to me. What, am I going to get mansplained about my truck, or what's going to happen here? And so I think that there's that little bit of awkwardness that needs to be overcome. And once that's overcome, then people open up and start to share. And that's the key to mental health that we looked at, through all of the trends involve that little bit of opening up, that little bit of uncomfortableness, and saying, yeah, I'm not feeling really my best mentally right now. What can I do to get some help or fine tune? It amazes me. We tune up our cars, we'll go in and do physiotherapy and everything to tune up our muscles. But the central processor of everything we do, we just hide that sucker away. And any problems with that, we're like, we don't want to talk about them. We don't want to acknowledge them. Somehow they're going to fix themselves, right? So kind of backwards.
Yeah, it is.
So the last thing that I want to talk about is in the field of behavioral health. And this is a really interesting field, especially in the field of public health emergencies, which are coming to an end almost worldwide. COVID I don't know if COVID itself is coming to an end, but all of the lockdowns and restrictive sort of things are easing up, and a lot of the mandates are disappearing. And pharmaceutical companies are responding in really interesting ways to this. I saw that look. What if are you against big pharma, Al? They're not your friend.
Oh, sorry. I think I bumped my little mute button on my mic. I think lots of times big pharma does things for money when they realize it's going to be damaging. Like when they started creating, the opioid drugs, they knew how addictive they were, right? So they knew there was going to be a lot of people die from that. But huge money maker, right? So, that's unfortunately that those things do happen, right? And that's what happened with the case of opioids, right?
Well, we've been talking about, and that's true. I mean, they follow the money. They're a corporation, right? Yep. And so this comes out of a really great source that I found. It's a business magazine for behavioral health specialists and investors, and it's all about big pharma and psychology, and very interesting resource. Really cool reading if you're into reading stuff that's a little bit dry, but has a lot of information in there. And what we saw over the last maybe 10 years is a lot of startups, a lot of investment in exactly what we've been talking about, and that sort of mental tune-ups. Autism got a lot of money, a lot of investment, a lot of startup companies, a lot of interest. It was a hot topic in the news. It was a hot topic in education. And that's good. But the problem was what they call SMI, which I'd never heard before, but it's a short term for serious mental illness.
Okay.
And during that period, there wasn't a lot of money that went into corporations and companies that were dealing with or looking at serious mental illness. And that's a problem because, we talk about how everyone has, on the lighter side of mental illness, if you will, and that may not be fair. And I don't know how you quantify that, but medical terminology separates them into serious medical illness and then non-serious medical or mental illness. So as we were looking at the sort of, and as you said, they follow the money. So there was a lot of startups, a lot of investment in that anxiety, stress business, and serious mental illness suffered. There wasn't a lot of growth. There wasn't a lot of exploration into new drugs, new treatment, those type of things, which is a concern because a certain percentage of our population at one time or another or permanently suffers from serious mental illnesses. Doesn't mean they're not functioning. It doesn't mean they're not high functioning. It doesn't mean, somebody at work, somebody in your family may have a serious mental illness. But that industry was greatly underserviced in the last 10 years. However, in 2023, there's indicators 2 major corporations are going online, and there's actually been created now a digital clinic for serious mental illness. Completely digital.
Interesting. Wow.
So I was shocked. Like I had to read through it a couple of different times because I can understand stress, right? I can go online. I can get, you and I did, what did you call it? Four breathing? What did you call it?
Yeah. Square breath. Breathing square breath. A square. I think it's just called square breathing. Like where you go
SEALs do it
4. Yeah.
Or they do
3. Yeah.
And then out. Anyway, those things, sure, I can understand online, digital apps for your watch or for your phone. I've got some on my phone and some on my watch that I use. But these are talking about serious mental illnesses. And there's big companies that are getting into the industry or providing online or remote resources for people who are suffering from these. And why people are excited about this is because it's going to help A, with access, and B, with destigmatization.
Nice.
As instead of going to some little clinic hidden away somewhere, and it's all secret and hushed and quiet. And this is something you can do in your living room with your family members beside you. And it's coming out of the shadows again.
Nice.
And that sounds really positive.
Does.
For 2023. Really exciting. If you're interested in looking into this, an example is Quartet Health. They're a digital behavioral health provider. That's a mouthful. And they're the ones that opened the new virtual clinic treating from moderate to serious mental illness.
Cool.
So yeah, have a
What
look
was
at
the
that.
name of it again, Scott?
Quartet Health.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
Yep. And a really interesting quote. The chief strategist officer said, given the complexity and the nature of SMI, serious mental illness, it's always got to be high tech combined with high touch. And it can't be either or. And that's a parallel to what we were hearing from the trends in education, is that they're starting to blend this idea of we have to be in the classroom, but we also have to offer opportunities for people to access education in different ways.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that as a species, as a civilization, we're learning that it doesn't have to be either or. And we've come through some pretty serious times where our history was either this or that. There was no middle choice. What do you think about it, Al? Are you down with the whole?
Oh, so what you're telling me is they're going to follow the same kind of trend that we're expecting in education in terms of making these blended. Well, why wouldn't that make sense, right? Make the experience as easy to access as possible, but where the person can be face to face, where there can be that direct human connection, that happens too. That's beautiful.
Yeah, they're talking about, so monitoring is an area that they can take out of the locked rooms, right? So there's opportunities as I said, my watch monitors heart and health, and if I fall, and Apple phones now have a feature that if you're in a car accident, it can tell, and it'll actually connect to a satellite system and alert your emergency list that you've been in a car accident. Even if you don't have cell service, it'll jump to a satellite system. So, serious mental health issues, monitoring, engagement is going to change in 2023, how people are engaging with their health providers. And even some forms of delivery for serious mental illness, they're thinking are going to be able to change. And I think that's a really interesting field. You and I have talked about it before, AI, robotic care, opportunities for that. So, but we were talking about how there's a big boom in things like autism. They're predicting that's not going to back off. They're predicting that that's going to stay hot, but we're going to also see opportunities and growth in the moderate to severe mental illness industry in a more open, out of the shadows kind of way, which is double thumbs up for that, right?
Did you and I ever have this conversation about autism and glyphosate?
No, don't even know what glyphosate is. Enlighten me.
Roundup, the chemical Roundup, basically is what it is.
Yeah.
So
every farmer uses Roundup, right?
Every farmer uses Roundup is the traditional or the most common way to do it, right? But Dr. Zach Bush, who studied this like crazy, basically says that before Roundup started being used in, I think, 1977, there was like one kid out of 600 or something like, or 6,000, 1 out of 6,000 kids had autism. And now the trend is like 1 out of 60. And this going to 1 out of 30 is basically the way he says. And basically glyphosate is, it kind of destroys the diversity of the soil. And then what we eat, the glyphosate's in us, and kind of destroys our diversity in our microbiome, that kind of thing, which causes things that cause leaky gut and all these other kind of things that causes inflammation and just a flood of disorders kind of a thing, right? And so that's kind of his thing, is that until we dial back on that process, we're going to see autism be at a really high level, right? That's how it's going to work.
But there's that interesting dichotomy of, we've specialized so many things to be more efficient, to produce more, right? So, like the whole, what is it? What they do to corn syrup to make it basically a poison, modified, whatever.
Yeah. Cornstarch. Yeah.
All of the things that we've done, to produce 10 times the amount of food in 1 square foot that we used to be able to do. And, specialized where we used to eat this huge range of food products. Now we eat like 20 or something. They come in different shapes, color, and taste, but they're all coming basically from the same ingredients, like you said. But there's an awareness among people and the population, growing awareness, that diversity is the key to our health, right? And if you think about the whole disconnection is disease, right? Or disconnection is social disorder or social damage, if you will, then connection, then diversity encourages connection, right? Like if you think about, if everybody of every shape, size, and color is welcome, then that's diverse, right? But if it's like, oh, we go on this track here, so it's only guys that look like this kind of thing, well, then that obviously, impairs the ability of that system and of our world to have like full and complete connection and full and complete value out of this, huge, diverse thoughts and diverse perspectives, right? So, yeah, that's kind of the way I'm seeing it, anyways. Well, because there is this self-destructive side to evolution, and that's really interesting. Maybe last year and the year before, I went back and read a lot of the stuff from Charles Darwin, and during that time period where they were really sort of struggling with the whole question of evolution. And it's always interpreted as survival of the fittest, which it's not. It's survival of the most adaptable.
Exactly.
Is the actual translation of his theory
Yeah.
into ordinary English. And the problem is that sometimes the short-term need for survival is to specialize. And if there's a peach orchard, an animal or us we'll gorge ourselves on peaches because it's a readily supply of energy. It's, doesn't require a lot of effort. It's not generally dangerous for us to harvest. We're not going to go say, well, I've eaten 6 peaches. Now I'm going to go, fishing, or I'm going to then go eat some plants, or there's that I need the most I can get with the least expenditure of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not laziness. That's evolution, right? I
Right.
mean, that's the key to survival often, is getting the most energy you can get out of the least amount of effort.
Expenditure. Yeah.
And that's become to our detriment in many ways now, and we've started to make it harder for ourselves on purpose. We have the park farther away, don't take the elevator, take the stairs. When 30 years ago, it's like, oh, we're going to save all this time by taking the elevator, that we're going to have more time to relax and enjoy ourselves. Well, we don't. We just work more, right? So we can buy more stuff and consume more, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I think we're outgrowing the evolutionary process a little bit, perhaps intellectually. And we're starting to say, yeah, there's a peach orchard there, but you know what? I need more than just peaches. And I'm fortunate that I have the opportunity, and not everyone does, as you and I and most people know. There's places in the world that if there was peaches in front of the people, that would be like a gift from heaven, because they don't have food. So whatever food they find, they're going to eat all of it because it's natural, right? So going back to this behavioral science trend, one of the concerns is, and this ties in with your roundup, which is a great segue, Al, you'd think we rehearsed this, is that, again, there's this tightrope that they're walking, because government watchdog groups are very leery of changing the traditional forms of healing, because they see opportunities for exploitation, they see opportunities for abuse, right? Like they figure, okay, we've got this system in place. We know how to handle traditional treatment. We know how to monitor clinics. We know how to check doctors. Of course, some get through the cracks, but we have that covered. And governments get really nervous when big companies and corporation and financial entities start creating new ways to treat things, because of course a company has its bottom line to consider. That doesn't mean the people inventing it and delivering it aren't concerned about their patients. It just means that, money's the motivator and also the vehicle to make these things possible. So one of the trends that they were saying in 2023 is you're going to see government agencies having to reinvent the way they try and police and watchdog as our society changes and becomes more multiplicit, more diverse, as we engage ourselves in more diverse ways of healing, learning, sharing, growing. Governments get panicked by that. And, some people say, oh, it's because they want to control us. Maybe that's true. Other people say, well, they're there to protect us. Also true. Some people say, well, they're in league with big business. Also true. But the bottom line is the system is in a very interesting point of flux right now. And we have the fortunate position of being around. So my advice to people is to get involved. Don't sit back and watch these trends. To get involved in them in 2023. Make 2023 the year you try something new and help the system grow in the best way, or the ways that you think are best for yourself and your community, etc. Okay, so I promised we don't have that much time left. So those are our trends for 2023 in mental health. I think it's going to be an exciting year. Would you agree?
I think so. I'm excited about it. I think we're going to see a lot more connection, a lot more growth, a lot more care for human beings, I think is what's going to happen. Like that's kind of the way that I think we're moving towards.
I'm pretty excited about the vaccination for cancer. I want to see where that goes, because that's been plaguing humanity for way too long. Like that's a problem we don't seem to be able to solve or even get a good handle on, really.
Right. Yeah.
Although a lot of people I love have been diagnosed with cancer and said that they were going to be gone, and they're still here. thank goodness, many years later. So we're obviously doing something better than, it used to be. They say Big C, start picking your plot and digging the hole, because that's where it's headed. But it's no longer like that, right?
No, I mean, some of the ones that weren't even treatable before are still, your odds of survival are way better than it was in the past. So, yeah.
Yeah, I got a blood test back. It was hard to get in. Boy, the people at the hospital, I don't know if people know this, but you can go to the blood clinic at night. Like we went down, it's like 7:00 at night, and they took blood and did all those kind of things. And the lady that was there was amazing. I have, imagine this, hard to hit veins, comes from being a little bit chunky and having my veins poked a lot in recent history. But she was talking to me. She was into anime, and we were talking about our tattoos and stuff. And she had the needle in my arm and 2 vials out of me before I even know that she'd stuck me. It was
Ooh, she's good, eh? Wow.
Yeah. So we have a problem with doctors not having enough in Lethbridge, but places are stepping up. So I was surprised to find out I don't know what they're called. They're in the basement there. They take blood and do other kinds of tests. They're open in the evenings, really early in the morning and evening. So if you're a working person, or you can't get like me, couldn't get a ride during the day down there, because they never know if they're taking blood or something, if I'm going to have problems afterwards, so I can't drive myself down. Check it out. They're there in the evening. So I thought that was
very accommodating.
Anyway, but last blood test, my prostate specific antigen, PSA, was up past the green zone. And so the doctors are like, yeah, that's not good, because prostate cancer is a big killer of men, and you've got obesity against you, your age, almost everyone in your family, your mother, your father, your grandmother, all had cancer. We don't like to see that. Last test, this last week, it was down. They're like, cool, that probably means you don't have prostate cancer, because it was down enough that they were pretty excited about it. So yeah,
well,
that's
it's kind of, my understanding is with the PSA test that they can also often have a high number, but it's not related to you having the cancer, right? That, so if it's a low number, you definitely don't. If it's a high number, you might not either, right? It's just it's kind of anyways, you feel a lot better that number's lower now.
Well, I was doing some reading like you were, and I read exactly what you're saying. Is they used to think high number, you got the cancer, we're going in with a knife, basically. Now they're like, yeah, sometimes, often it's high and there's no cancer there. So that's changing. But it did, how we are, right? I know that intellectually, but when I got the test back, I was doing a little panda dance and thinking, yay, it's down. So that's good.
Good news. Now you're breathing easier. Good news.
Yeah.
And you're not going to forget about your picture behind you and what you're going to talk about with that.
No, I'm headed there. Okay. So I'm going to throw, there's 8 of them, but these are well-being trends.
Well-being trends.
I'll put a link to them, but I search well-being trends for 2023.
You put these links on the Acapellas website. Is that where you put them?
Yeah. Or on our Facebook, and then on the Acapellas. So
right. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where am I? So the first one I want to talk about is sense hacking. SENSE, not senses and money, but smell, touch, sense hacking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is like essential oils and that kind of stuff, to that
kind of, except people are realizing, including mainstream medicine, that our senses play an important role in not only our mental health, but how our body responds, the chemicals it produces, we've talked about it, the endorphins, all of the things. We're one big sensor, really. Like our skin is a huge sensor array, and temperature and touch and all sorts of things. And so sense hacking, what they call sense hacking, is a big well-being trend for 2023. And that's where people are starting to learn how to affect their mood, how to affect hunger, how to affect happiness, by using their senses to either stimulate or repress adverse conditions.
Okay, interesting.
Now, like you said, is that we've had incense and all of those things for years. And that's true to a greater and lesser extent. But what we're going to see in 2023 is an even further embracing of sense hacking in mainstream medicine and in our daily lives. So corporations are starting to realize that not only do they need clean air in their offices, they have to worry about the smell. They have to worry about the temperature. Not only does it have to meet health and safety regulations, their workers need to be stimulated to be comfortable and productive, right? Education, every field we're talking about is really looking into sense hacking. Especially, and it talks about how as we're headed into economic turmoil, and I got a dozen notices today about how people are getting their utility bills and things in from January, and heart attacks are happening because of the prices, and kids are moving back home. Re-nesting is occurring because kids can't afford to live on their own, and there's a lot of turmoil from that.
My ATCO bill this month was $1,916. I can feel your pain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think essential oils will take that pain away, my friend. I know that's a pain beyond the help of sense hacking, maybe. But I do think it's really interesting how that's been. It used to be kind of a hippie thing, right? Like,
yeah.
And it's really becoming more mainstream, and particularly, and this is dear to my heart, is sleep. People are getting aware in a more general way how important sleep is.
Mm-hmm. It's like it's our restoration period, right? We gotta have that for our body to recover from what has occurred, and for us to even process what has happened during the day and synthesize those thoughts, those kind of things. Yeah, sleep is super important. You bet.
And there are some of us who live on about 4 hours of sleep a night. And like my doctor always says, you're a zombie. You're not even alive. How do you live? Your body can't even repair itself at that. But it is tied into all sorts of things. And cognitive and emotional well-being are two of the big ones tied in with sleep, not just the physical, like you say, repairing, but like I read a study. It was when I was actually taking a sleep study. My specialist gave it to me, and it was like, if you have a bad night's sleep 3 nights in a row, it's the equivalent of taking 2 shots of vodka or something on your brain. Like,
is that right?
It's I may be over or under exaggerating that amount, but it is the impairment caused by even a small amount of sleep deprivation is massive on your cognitive ability, and on emotional well-being is huge.
You bet.
So we're going to see a lot of products and a lot of self-help, a lot of sensitizing. There's another one called sleep syncing. That's a trend coming up where we're realizing that sleep is so important to us. People are going to start eating according to their circadian rhythms.
Interesting.
Instead of just, breakfast is at 7:30, lunch is at 12, and supper is at 5:30, regardless of what your circadian rhythms are. Well, that doesn't help us sleep.
Right.
I mean, science proved years ago that our bodies have a rhythm, and if we fight that rhythm, we're like a machine, right? If you bend a piston rod, the engine might keep firing, but it's sure not running at optimal ability. So sleep syncing, look into that. That's going to be another one that's coming up. Wellness travel, lots of them that are coming up. Plants are coming back in vogue, particularly as something that I experience, which is SAD. Seasonal whatever disorder.
Affective disorder. Yeah.
I have a light that I can, if I don't use the light, I get it. But when I use my little light thing, I feel better.
We have a light too, and we use it as well. And do you take your vitamin D too?
Oh, I do. Yeah, religiously now. Because I don't know why. When you're older, they do all these blood tests on you. I wish they would have done them 30 years ago when it could have made a big difference, right? Now it's sort of like, meh, the roof's rotten, but we'll put some shingles on there. But we test it every year to make sure it's not going to cave in on us. But I think that we should get into testing some of that stuff earlier, but it might change the outcome. Biophilic design. Do you know what that is? I had to look that one up.
Oh, yeah. So basically, love of nature type design. So it's in tune with nature. It's connected with nature. Alvin Fritz, the architect, that's how he designs buildings. That's his thing. Yeah.
Biophilic design is exactly that, using nature, plants, environment as an architectural component for the well-being of humans who either work, live, eat, sleep in that environment.
Yeah.
Going to be big in 2023.
Yeah.
I was pretty excited about that. Uh, this one I had to read a couple of times. Mood boosting bathroom design.
Oh, mood boosting bathroom design. What is that like?
Well, except for the living room, and most people don't eat at their kitchen table anymore. Most people eat in the living room, watch TV in the living room. The bathroom is where we spend our second most amount of awake time in our house.
Okay.
I mean, using the toilet, but also bathing, personal grooming. A lot of stuff goes on in the bathroom.
Sure.
In a house with mine, whenever the girls are home, it's like Grand Central Station in there. There's always somebody was got a mirror the length of the wall and a counter the length of the wall, because when the girls are there, there's motions and potions and brushes, and not that some of them aren't mine, but yeah, it's an important place. And so now they're realizing that rather than just being clean and pretty, that because we spend so much time in the bathroom, it's an opportunity for us to use our environment to improve our mood, to improve our health, our perspective, again, mental well-being again. So we're going to see trends in bathroom design aimed at improving our mood and well-being in 2023. That one
Can't
blew
be any
me away.
harm in that.
No, and we're right close to the end here. So I'm going to throw the last one at you, and I love this one. Have you ever heard of this one? Sky Coology.
Who? Skycoology?
Yeah, SKYCHOLOGY.
Oh, I have no idea what that is. What is it, Scott?
It's the psychology of looking up at the sky.
Oh, isn't that interesting? The
It is,
psychology
and
of
it's a
looking up at the
real
sky.
thing. It was coined by a positive psychology coach named Paul Conway. He
Okay.
did a master's degree in positive psychology, and he was looking for a cheap, simple, do anywhere, by anyone in any financial, economical, social situation, something that could help calm, self-regulate, relieve anxiety, enhance mindfulness, feeling present in the moment, etc., 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 etc. And when he was doing this, he found that he was out laying on the grass looking up at the sky, and he felt better, and he was able to concentrate more and work on his masters. And he's like, hold on here. So I'm trying to find a way to stay calm, concentrate, feel better. And to do that, I'm just naturally laying here and looking up at the sky and thinking. Started to do some research into it, and both in science, medicine, and culture, looking at the sky has been around for centuries as a way to improve our mental health and well-being.
Nice. That's a great reminder of that. One other thing just to add to that, he's laying in the grass. Laying in the grass by itself is a pretty amazing thing for your soul, for your body to kind of reconnect with Mother Earth, right? It's a big deal too.
Well, and it talks about Psychology Today did an article on it. It says it develops a more optimistic attitude. It will enhance rather than disrupt one's social, professional, and spiritual life. It's not something you have to proclaim that, oh, I meditate or I do this. You can quietly just lay down and look up at the sky. You don't have to take a course. You don't have to get a prescription.
I'm doing it tonight. I'm going outside, look at the sky a bit. Thanks,
and you can
Scott.
do it basically anytime, anywhere. And
Yeah.
so Skyology is big in 2023, and I thought of this picture because we used to take the kids there. We used to do our classes, and then we just lay down in the grass and look up at this sky. And because we were so high up, it kind of felt like you were on a cloud, because there was a wall around this, but when you're laying down and looking up, your perspective changes so much that the whole world changes around you.
Right. And then also probably you're in a space where the outside, the city lights weren't as interfering there being up so high and everything, right? So
well, and other buildings, you couldn't see other buildings, and all you could see was this beautiful sun and cloud, and on a rainy day, didn't matter what the weather was. It was still an amazing experience.
Nice.
And reading this article on Sky College,
that was a good find, Scott. Nice one.
Yeah. So, and that's, I think, what we should leave everyone with tonight is go out, lay down on the ground, maybe not in the snow or cold, but why not? Dress for it. But get into the habit of taking a few minutes every day and just looking up. And they say you don't even have to lay down, just the fact. And you're talking about the vagus nerve, vagal nerve.
Yeah, vagus nerve.
That when you do this, probably now I've got double chin on the camera, but when you do this motion, you open up your lungs, you open up your respiratory system, you tilt your sinuses back. A whole bunch of stuff goes on by changing ourselves into that position. And win, win, win. No downside to it that I can find anywhere. Free.
Nice.
You don't
need any instruction. Don't need anything else. Just go out and do it. That's beautiful. Love it.
And you can't fail at it. Like every time, I'm intimidated now by meditation, because every time I do it, my brain goes off on some tangent, and I find myself thinking about the nature of the universe or the last Disney cartoon I watched. And I fail every time I try meditation. But you can't fail at this. You just look up. Anyone can do that.
I love it, Scott. That's beautiful.
So we leave that with our friends. Next week, we're going to talk about one of your favorite friends, serendipity.
Nice.
And what is serendipity and why is it necessary? How does it help us?
Oh, I cannot wait to talk more about Sister Serendipity. She is one of my favorite people.
I know she's a big part of your life, and that's part of your secret why you're a healthy, happy, hopeful human being, is because you let serendipity roam through your life like a wild wildebeest of the plains of Africa.
All right, that's a good one, Scott. All right, wrap us up. Let's get us out of here tonight.
From my good friend, the acapellist Alan Friesen, and myself, Scott Sweetman, we are here on H Cube, the newly invented Hopeifiers, and we'll be back next Thursday at 7 p.m. Join us for some fun, some laughs, and at least some very weird conversations, if not helpful. Take care, everyone. Thanks for coming.
See ya.